So welcome to Beyond Sunday, a podcast that we do here at the Bridge where we have conversations with people about faith, life, and work. And today my guest is...
Christina
Yee. Yes, it's so good to have you with us. Christina, usually we have conversations and just see what comes up. And I know for you, we kind of talk about people's lives. And for you, I think like so much happened in the first 5 years of your life, right?
5 to 10 years of my life.
5 to 10 years of your life, right?
Yeah.
For a lot of people, childhood is relatively stable and calm. The crazy stuff happens in your young adult years, maybe, or whatever. But you've got an incredible story. And if you're okay with it, I'd just love to start with that. Tell us.
Sure.
Tell us the first 10 years of Christina's life.
First 10 years, okay.
Yeah.
So I was born in Nepal in a small town, or actually a small village, and it was Hindu. I was born into a caste that's called a priestly caste.
Okay.
And so we were...
Where does that rank in terms of the
caste system?
Yeah.
The top.
That's the very top. Okay. So you were born into that.
I was born into that, which meant there was a lot of restrictions, like just food-wise, not really hygiene, but I guess loose translation is hygiene. Basically, a lot of our property stuff couldn't be touched by people of lower caste.
Right.
Because otherwise it would be considered unclean.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was the system.
So you've got this kind of privilege, but you're also very much cut off from everyone.
But also, if I had grown up in that culture and still stayed there, I would be considered, and marriage-wise, be like the caste people would want to marry into.
Right. Yeah.
But I couldn't marry into any lower castes. It would be very frowned upon and disowned kind of thing.
Yes.
So it was just that high privilege kind of caste.
Okay.
But when I was growing there, I actually questioned some of the customs. I didn't understand. And I don't know if it was my kid brain or just God working about why, somebody touching my water jug is considered unclean.
Something intuitive in you just said, this doesn't seem right.
Yeah, doesn't seem right.
Yep.
Yeah, and then I got injured. I was extremely malnourished, and then I got injured and broke my legs. And then went into the hospital, found out I had tuberculosis in my joints. Was in an intensive 6-month rehab in the hospital, during which point my family left me because now I was not worth anything.
How old were you at that point?
About 5-6 years old.
5 or 6 years old?
Yeah.
And was that was connected with some of that caste ideology or?
Well, it's more connected, I think, more culturally in that one, not the caste. So, because girls are supposed to supposed to support the family before they get married, and then once they get married off, they take care of the husband's family.
Okay.
And it's not just it's the whole nuclear family they take care of, right? Not just their own little subset, but everybody, grandparents, uncles, aunts, that's what their job is.
Okay.
And so because of my injury, I was considered, I couldn't do that.
Wow.
And so they left me at the hospital.
Wow.
But God had amazing plans there, Greg.
And you remember all of this. I know my 5-year-old memories are pretty blurry.
Yeah.
But you remember this pretty vividly?
I remember being carried to the hospital.
Okay.
Because vehicles and stuff is very not as accessible at that time as well. And we have this, I don't know, English translation for this contraption, but it's like a wicker basket.
Okay.
But normally it's used to carry when you chop down trees to carry for goats or animals or things like that.
Yeah.
But they'd cut one section off and put me in there to carry me to the hospital.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I remember that part, but I think it's also because certain parts of it, and there's my psychology is coming here, is when you experience certain very strong emotional stuff, it's easier to remember.
Yeah.
Right? So I remember the pain as I was being carried. And so I think just that snippets of those images comes through.
Yeah.
I remember at one point when I was in the hospital stay, I don't know who, but a relative came to take me away. But I absolutely refused.
Okay.
Because I knew, I wasn't healed fully either. Or, I couldn't even walk yet. And so I had a doctor, because the hospital I was at was a hospital where missionaries doctors came and worked there.
Okay.
And so there was 2 doctors, one from Korea and one from Sweden. Yeah, Sweden. And so those were my 2 saviors almost in that sense there.
Yeah.
So the doctor from Korea listened to me and wouldn't let me be taken
Okay.
at that time.
And you knew at that
remember
point
that.
that your family had kind of.
And then after
abandoned
that,
you.
they just never came back
Okay.
to visit. Because normally in those hospitals, which is slightly different than here, because like here you have, the visiting hours and then you have to leave for the night or something,
Yeah.
right? Actually, I don't know about the kids' wards, but adults' wards is like that. Whereas in the hospitals in Nepal, the family takes care of your kids.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the hospital provides the meals,
Yeah.
but the family's there to take care
Okay.
of a lot of the things. Otherwise, because there's not enough staff, there's not enough,
Sure. Sure.
So it's also, and yeah. So
Yeah. Parent participation.
Parent
hospitals.
participation hospital.
Okay.
Not just for kids, but for all ages.
Yeah,
It
okay.
was families involved.
Yeah.
They have like spaces where they roll out mats for them to lay down on and things like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I didn't have any of that.
No. And
But-
that must have been. Do you remember? Like that must have been. I can't imagine.
I don't
That's-
remember feeling. I think I would just really maybe just felt safe in the hospital because
Okay.
I got to know the doctors and nurses.
Okay.
I built connections with them. I know there was one nurse. I don't remember. This is some of the things I'm like regret is I don't remember the names of
Sure.
the people.
Yeah.
But I remember building connection with a nurse, and I think also some of the families around me felt bad, so they'd give me money.
Okay.
I remember that.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
then the nurse would go buy me stuff and treats with that money.
Yeah.
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 And then eventually I built a really strong connection with the Swedish doctor. And he his wife as well was there too. And they gave me my first stuffed toy.
Okay.
It was a cat, and I still have it. And it's
really?
traveled from me from every country I've gone to.
Okay.
It's been with me.
It must
Yeah.
be pretty sturdy. It's not. Is it, or is it pretty threadbare?
No, it's pretty sturdy. I haven't I don't sleep with it, or I
Sure.
don't do, it's just,
Sure.
it's there.
But that's amazing
Yeah.
to have that memento from
Yeah.
that time in your life. Still to this day, yeah.
But then it's got really strong memories of when I came into the family as well.
Okay.
So I used it to bug my siblings.
Okay. Okay. So that's a huge part of the story.
Yeah.
So you're in the hospital.
So
you
it's
built this
through
connection.
that doctor
Yeah.
that I also met my parents.
Okay.
So my dad was missionary at that time in that hospital as a dentist. And my mom would also participate in the children's wards. This is something I don't have a memory of, but there is actually a video with my family, or we did have a video of it at one point, of my mom going around singing Nepali worship songs with the kids in the ward, me being there, participating, being with her in the same frame. I just don't remember it.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I think we got connected that way a bit. And then they were asked to find an orphanage for me. And eventually my siblings were like, we can't just abandon her, let's adopt her. So
they were there with your parents in the hospital, getting to know the kids.
no, I think they were in school. There's a little international elementary school, so they were there.
Yeah.
So I don't think we actually officially met. My sister, because the school only goes up to about grade 5, grade 6. So then once they're done, they have to go to high school, but there's no international high school in that town that the hospital was in.
Yeah.
And so they had to go to the capital.
Okay.
And that's where the international schools, high schools were.
Yeah.
And that was the transition of when I got into the family too. So in, I think, January 2000
Yeah.
was when I was with the family.
Okay. And
Yeah.
you remember that?
I remember that. I
Yeah.
also remember some very funny moments with that because I was called into, I don't know if it was like the dean's place or, where they discharge you and you have the head hospital. And I heard some Nepalis talking about somebody going with these white people.
Yeah.
I'm like, ooh. Because I had no idea where I was really going. I was just
Right.
I had idea that I was going off with a family.
Yeah.
And had been talked to
Well,
with a white family.
Your dad's not.
Well, my dad's
white,
not
but-
white, but then
Yeah.
he's not Nepali.
Right, okay.
But he does have features of a Nepali caste, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
But anyways, so
he's not. They were not. It was.
They're Westerners.
They're
So,
Westerners.
yeah,
They're
sure.
not
Okay.
Nepali.
Yeah.
And then somebody else, and I don't know who. I just remember hearing these things. They're like, oh, these Westerners, these foreigners, they eat snakes. And for me, as I said earlier, I grew up in that caste, right?
Yeah.
And meat was something was a no-no, unless it was goat meat during the special holidays.
Okay.
Even like eating chicken is like a no-no.
Okay.
Like I remember somebody having to come into our property to eat our dead chicken because we couldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was that kind of, so it's just like hearing that, I'm going with these Westerners and they eat snake. I was like, ugh.
Right.
And then I think
Have you ever had snake?
Never had snake. Never to this day had
Neither.
snake.
It's not a common thing. Yeah.
So I don't know where those people heard that they eat snake.
Yeah.
But then the first meal that my family were making was roast chicken, and in these like little small, those tiny ovens, like the size of a microwave at that time, but it was like a small rotisserie oven kind of thing.
Yeah.
And I guess they were roasting a chicken, and my head, I'm thinking it's a snake.
Right.
So I refused to eat the meal. Okay. Then my mom was saying, I think later on she told me, it's like, it took a while for me to be able to eat Western food.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was a funny moment.
Okay.
But I built some connections with my siblings. As I said, the cat was the biggest thing.
Yeah.
So from the village where the hospital was to the capital where they were now living, it's about an 8-hour drive.
Okay.
Through bumpy, windy hills.
Yeah.
And I had that cat, and it has a really nice long tail.
Okay.
And it's really amazing that, when you're a youngest sibling, you're the one that bugs your older sibling, right?
Yeah.
And I just automatically did that. Yeah. I took the cat, and I was like...
It just came so natural.
It came so natural, and my sister was trying to sleep, and I was like using the end of the tail and just rubbing it on her face, just bugging her. And then my mom had to like intervene and move me to the other side. And I was doing it with my brother, and then he would be throwing the cat to the back. And it just became siblings right away. And I didn't know them. They didn't know the language quite as well, and I didn't know English. Okay. So I didn't speak a word of English.
This was the way that you could communicate with them, was through the tail of your stuffed cat.
Tail of my stuffed cat. But I didn't know a word of English at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, adoption is a pretty central biblical metaphor. Mm-hmm. It's something we talk about quite a bit as one of the blessings we have in the gospel. Yeah. That must mean something a bit different for you, given your background.
I think, I don't know. I really see it very biblically too.
Yeah.
I think maybe...
Yeah, I don't mean it's a totally different understanding. I mean, but it must strike you in a deeper way, right?
It holds very special to me.
Yeah.
I think as I grew up I did different life stages in different countries, and the reaction of people when I tell them I'm adopted is very interesting to hear.
Yeah.
I think in Nepal, it's because there was a lot of war happening there at that time when I was adopted too. A lot of civil unrest. And so I think there was a lot of orphanages happening, but locals weren't quite as adopting. But it was not I didn't ever feel any negative or a positive thing. It was just a thing that happened. Yeah. And then when I moved to Singapore, and that was like in my upper year high school years, and at the churches there, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm adopted, just casual thing. And they're like, oh, welcome to the family. I'm like, what? I mean, what do you mean, welcome to the family? I'm not part of your family, like in that sense, Yeah. So for them, it just kind of was trying to almost like reassure me that it was okay to be adopted.
Oh, they weren't taking it in like kind of a spiritual sense.
No, they weren't.
They weren't like, oh, you're adopted into the family of God. It was, okay.
No, because
it was as if it had happened yesterday to you.
Because we're talking about my family dynamic, because my dad is Chinese, my mom's British English, Yeah. And then there's me. Yeah. And so then I think when we're talking in that context, we're like, welcome to, now you're being a part of a family.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it was just what?
Yeah, sure.
For me, because I've always seen it, and I think it's the way my parents did it, and my mom spent considerable time building that connection with me, because that is what I know sometimes doing psychology as well, that lacks in the adoption process. And my mom spent doing all that bonding that kids normally have with their parents. Okay. And I was able to have that with my mom, and then my dad, and so then for me it was just, I became a family. Mm-hmm. Adoption is almost just name.
Sure. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And even certain, like my older sister, who's my dad's daughter, not my mom's, people look at me and they're like, oh, you guys look so similar. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Right? And so it's these things that I think just God just knew.
Yeah.
Even like the year I was born was also the year that my parents moved to Nepal. That we didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But, it's just...
It's almost like God had kind of was
put everybody together in the same
advance. Yeah.
area.
Yeah. Yeah. And I wonder, like you're kind of saying, like it's just become a word because you don't feel like you're this is your family. This is who you are. It's not like it's different in that sense from being like a biological child where this is who you are. Yeah. And maybe you could relate that to our adoption as Christians, that it's not that being adopted means that you are like a lesser child, but that you are fully in, like you're a full heir of what belongs to God, right?
Yeah.
Is now you're inheriting that.
Yeah. And that's what I see it as like where it's just a word.
Yeah.
It's something that happened and now you are a family. Your siblings, your brothers, like people ask me when I have to talk about this process, I struggle to say my adoptive parents.
Yeah.
They're not my adoptive parents.
They just are
my
your parents. Yeah.
That's who they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, and then when I differentiate, it's more like my biological parents and then my parents.
Yeah. Right.
So that's more for me.
Yeah.
That's how I see it. And I see it as more of a beautiful gift almost, like.
Yeah.
And I know when I was in the UK as well, adoption was very negative there. It's almost like, oh, you're adopted because you're unwanted. But you know what? Unwanted and somebody wants you.
Yeah, that's right. There was a choice involved here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always a choice involved.
Always, yeah.
But yeah, that they saw you and they said, you're now in. We're bringing you into the family.
Yeah, and it's like my siblings, when I was brought into the family, like my parents always wanted a fourth kid. But my siblings were like, no.
Okay.
They did not want to. And my parents were looking for adopting as well.
Yeah.
And my siblings were all saying, no. Until I came in and they were the ones who initiated.
Yeah, right.
We can't. Yeah. So that's, yeah.
That's special.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So actually when we were doing the adoption process in the UK, it felt very weird to me because I was already with the family and I was already my parents. I was already calling my parents and siblings.
Yeah.
And the social worker's asking all these questions and I'm just like, huh?
Right.
What's the relevance of this anymore? Like, they're like, are you sure you want to be part of this family? I'm like, what do you mean, are you my sure? This is my family.
Yeah. It's just the fact of the matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When did you guys go to England? After Nepal?
Yeah, so after Nepal, so there's a whole process in getting my papers.
It's the first time Rodrigo's ever talked in the podcast.
Oh, this is amazing. Hi.
Yeah.
So because of the civil unrest and the village I was from, that's where the Maoists, so the other party, had a big, heavy hold. And they were very anti-Westerns, all of that. So trying to get any of my paperwork to be able to get an adoption was really hard. So I came into the family in 2000 in January. It took about 4 years before I could, not even an adoption paper, 4 years. I managed to get British citizen. And then we had to go in the UK to complete, which took another 2 years to be officially adopted. So it's about over 6 years to officially be adopted.
So officially when you were, 11, 12 years old, something like that?
Yeah, about 12, 13 years old when I was officially adopted.
Yeah, but you'd been in the family already for a long,
since I was 5, 6 years old, right? So,
Sure.
So by then, again, that's like the questions just really didn't make sense to me.
Yeah.
But even with getting the paperwork, God's hand was in it. Like the guy had to go, because I think my parents had hired a local Nepali to go and get it because of the unrest and stuff. And I think he faced quite a bit challenges as well, but God brought it in. And And I was able to get my British citizenship before I even left the country.
Okay.
And then so because I had to be living in the UK for a few years to officially be adopted, that's why we went to UK for 2006 to 2008.
Okay.
Yeah.
And now obviously you're getting adopted into a missionary family. Growing up, what would you have believed about God, and what was that like to all of a sudden find yourself in like a pretty zealously Christian family? Not mildly, right? Like,
yeah. Well,
parents are on fire.
They are. Yeah. It was a very. So when I was in the hospital, it's olden times. Also less technology.
The olden times.
I say the olden times because it was like
in the early 2000s.
I remember like modem connection. I remember like black and white TV. I remember like I talked to people my age at this age, and they're like, "Huh?" They don't
remember the modem thing. Not anymore.
Rarely, right? Like it's or like. I guess a couple of my friends are a few years younger than me.
Yeah.
So they don't remember any of those things, right?
Yeah.
Like video cassettes or little, listening songs in a little cassette player.
Yeah.
Like none of this is a thing for them.
Yeah.
But that's what I grew up in.
Totally.
And so in the hospital, we had a TV about this size, like a laptop kind of size now,
Yeah.
on the far end of the ward in the corner. And every Friday, every kid got to choose a movie they could watch.
Okay.
And my movie, I guess one point they had put on the Bible story.
Okay.
Like, because it's a Christian mission hospital.
Yeah,
right?
the Bible story.
Or like just Jesus story.
The Jesus movie?
Gospel, Jesus movie.
Yeah,
it's an old school style.
Yeah,
I don't know
sure.
if it's even available anymore.
But that was huge. That was everywhere. I remember growing up even if it is the Jesus movie.
In the 2000, 1999,
like it would have been around in the 90s for sure. That's more when I grew up, and definitely the Jesus movie was everywhere, and it was shown. I know all around the world in all kinds of different languages and places. So yeah. Probably that.
That's probably what it was.
Who knows?
I don't know. All I remember was one specific scene, and it was Jesus feeding the 5,000.
Okay.
Right? I didn't know the name Jesus.
Yeah.
So everywhere whoever got to choose it, we could also vote on a movie, and I would always try to push. Let's watch the movie with the guy feeding the 5,000, the guy feeding the people, the fish and the bread.
Was there something you look at that story in particular and say, well, this is why that story connected with me especially, or just?
I just don't know. I just know because I'm also a very vocal person, and I just remember being very pushy and trying to convince the other kids to watch that movie. And I don't know what spoke to me. I just know that's the movie I liked.
Yeah.
And I'm just now looking back at it, I'm thinking it's just God calling me in.
Right. Yeah.
Right. Like I started questioning some of the customs and things of the Hindu faith even before, and then coming to that hospital and just wanting to see that. That's what I was drawn to, None of the other kids' shows, none of the other kids' things that probably would have been more fascinating. But no, that's what was drawing me in.
Yeah.
And then when I came into the family, my parents were going into a Nepali church. So I think that, I just went with them. And then I don't think there was, other than that video, I don't think there was a moment where, oh, yeah, I'm now a Christian.
Okay.
Right? I think it just kind of happened. And then my mom would do devotionals every night with me. And then my grandmother from the UK started sending, as I started learning English more and speaking English, started sending these devotions, which I'm I really wish they still have them nowadays. Because they were that's really grounded me. It set a foundation for my faith, I think.
Yeah.
And they had the Bible story. They had little word search or fill in the blank activity kind of things. Then they had a little comic strip that kind of touched on the theme of the Bible lesson or the lesson of that for that day.
Yeah.
And those characters over time, as you get older, grew up as well.
Yeah.
And so you kind of went with the characters.
Okay.
And then there was a one for the teens and youth, and it was more depth and more detailed. And so my grandmother would keep sending these from the UK to us.
Yeah.
So I had those and would be reading that, and then I think that just became my life.
Yeah.
And then,
so you can't date your conversion?
I cannot date my conversion. No.
It's funny with some people, for some churches, some traditions, that's a really big deal.
Really?
It is. It's a huge deal. Oh, you've got to be able to say the date and everything. But
yeah, I don't have that.
You don't have that. But I think that's the reality is that for some people, it's just kind of this gradual one step closer kind of thing. And all of a sudden you wake up and you realize, oh, I'm in this country, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, I think maybe, you always invoke C.S. Lewis when you need like a contemporary authority, right?
Yeah.
I think I remember him saying writing something about that, how sometimes being a Christian is like you go to sleep, on the train in France, and then you wake up the next morning and you're in Germany and you don't know exactly where it happened, but now you're in a different country.
I would totally relate to that. Yeah, totally, definitely.
I might have just totally made that up, but I think.
Well, if that's made up, but that aligns with
sounds good. It sounds
for
right.
me. Yeah. I think also during that time, as I said, I had a lot of physical stuff too, and a lot of prayer from not just my family, but people who sent them on missions, from the different churches praying for me, my parents' friends, and I had like physical healing happen.
Okay, tell us about that. Or tell me about
Tell
that.
you
We're
about
just having
that.
this conversation.
Yeah, so because of my tuberculosis, now I have to try to think about what it was like time. I think this is before they took out my hip bones. But I had a drop foot. In a medical term, it's when you can't move your ankle up and down.
Okay.
And I had to have a brace on it, and like it's to do with the nerves, and you can't. If you're not able to do it, you can't do it.
Okay.
And even like intense physio, rarely.
So you can't walk with that kind of.
Well, you can.
Condition.
You kind of drag your feet and then put it down.
Sure.
Drag your foot and put it down. Or you have that brace that holds your leg up, so then you can put your heel down. Right?
Sure. I mean, obviously you can figure out ways to walk, but it would be different than the way most people would walk.
Yeah, and you'd need different things to help you walk.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I remember because I was on a traction, my bed was in the kitchen. My mom did the devotional night before, and we just prayed for my leg again, and we went to sleep. Next morning I woke up and I tried and I could do it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then since I had my hip operation, there was a chance again it would come back since I had it already.
Okay.
No, in fact, I had 2 sciatica nerves.
Yeah.
Which we don't have in our body. You only have 1 on each side.
Okay.
I had 2 on one side.
Okay.
On the leg that was supposed to have the drop foot.
Okay.
So it's just, again, God's taking care of it.
What does that mean? I don't even know.
Okay, so sciatica nerve is this long nerve that goes from the back of your back.
Yeah.
And it runs all the way to the side and down to your leg. And it's like the main nerve that affects it all.
And I know people talk about having sciatica, like the pain and pretty intense.
And pinched, and then your whole leg is
Sure.
numb or you can't move it.
You have 2 of them on one side.
I have 2 of them on one side.
What does that mean?
It means I have 2 nerves that work, I think. I don't know. The doctors just informed me that it was very unusual, and I have 2.
Okay.
And again, like my mom and I are like reflecting back to when I was getting prayed.
Yeah.
And over the time I was in Nepal till I think we left when I was about 11, 12. We had people come over and pray for healing multiple times. And then there was one particular guy who'd pray and was really filled with the Holy Spirit, really to the point where, these are things that I think you would really want to hear right now. But people just like bursting into laughter, people like bursting into crying. I would be laughing at some points and crying some points, and then some points my legs would just be shaking.
Okay.
Like I just had no control over that. And the leg that was shaking was the leg that had the drop foot.
Yeah.
The leg that ended up having 2 sciatica nerves.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, God's building something there probably at that time. Who knows?
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Now, how do you? Because you've still had to have some surgeries, and there's still continued to be some difficulties there.
Yeah.
How do you interpret that? Like you've been miraculously healed in one aspect, but then in other aspects you've had to go through this whole long medical kind of procedure throughout the course of your adult life, and you haven't had healing there. In terms of, spiritual, miraculous kind of in the moment healing. Yeah. How do you understand that?
So, as I said, I've had a lot of healing for prayer. We've gone to lots of different, not just like purposely gone to perfect healing, but like people have been around me who want to heal for me. And I'm like, I always believe, God will do and heal and actually, like, there's no limit to his power, right?
Yeah.
And actually, we've been around people who've had stomach issues or like had a regrowth of an organ, and so I'm like, okay, there's no limit. But every time, eventually, as these prayers happened and I had that healing happen, then after that, I've always felt God in my heart telling me, I'm not going to fully heal you. And I know that sounds really intense to hear,
Hey.
but I'm going to use it for my glory.
Yeah.
And one moment that really stood out to me that sealed that kind of for me was when I was in Singapore, and we lived in this compound with a lot of expats, like, because my dad was teaching at the university there, and locals would come by too, and I was just walking by, and I think I was limping probably at that time, and the guy's like asking me what's wrong, and then he sees my face, I'm very happy, and then I just able to explain, it's fine, it's great, and then I'm like, God's got plans for me, and he's like, how can you say that? I'm like, this is just a temporary life body. And, I didn't have a lot of time to talk with him, but I'm like, I know I'm going to get a great body afterwards. This is just temporary. And then the guy's just like, I think just seemed very baffled about it,
Right. Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, that's what I'm supposed to be doing, using my stuff to glorify God.
Yeah.
And it kind of, I don't know if you've seen The Chosen, when little James asks, I don't want to give it away, but
I think you're okay.
Okay.
Yeah. If anyone's listening and you haven't seen this and you really want to,
go watch it and then come back.
because it's not actually straight from the Bible.
It's not straight from the Bible.
Yeah, I actually had that happen recently in a baptism class. Somebody was like, "Oh, you know how it says in the Bible about like the one disciple didn't get healed and the other one did?" And I'm like, "Actually,
no, that didn't happen. It's
not the Bible. It's just The Chosen. There's a difference, actually." But anyways,
what they use to dramatize that.
Yeah.
How Jesus says, "I'm going to use you." Imagine the power.
Yeah.
When you can go heal people even though you're not, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Is
connected significantly. Yeah.
Kind of similar. Yeah. It's not the exact same, and it's not.
Yeah.
That's part of the scene. It's not biblical,
Sure. Yeah.
But it really reinforced what God was saying to me before too, right?
Yeah.
And it's not that I'm not going to go for prayer for healing.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't believe God's not going to heal me anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe, God now will heal me because he's done what he wanted to do with it, right?
Yeah.
You never know.
Sure.
But it's also being
just
happy with where I am with what God wants to do.
I think I think your testimony, your story both shows God's power and willingness to heal, to intervene in pretty dramatic ways.
Yeah.
But then also that in ways that we can't explain, he chooses not to.
Yeah.
And that both of those things are true. Because I think we can either fall on one side or the other here into ditches, right? Where we go, well, God doesn't heal. We're not going to pray for that. That's not something we should be asking for.
Yeah.
And then also, if you have faith, then God will heal you of everything. And
he will.
Yeah, eventually.
Yeah.
Someday. But that idea that you haven't been healed in your legs because you don't have enough faith, right? Like that's terrible.
Yeah.
Like what a burden to put on people, right?
Yeah.
So I think your testimony, what you've just said, it kind of brings both of those together and says God does heal, but we can't understand why he does that when he does, and some and not others, right?
Yeah.
And I always think about Peter and John, their conversation with Jesus at the end of the Gospel of John, where Peter says to Jesus, well, what about him? What about John? And Jesus says, if I want him to return, to stay alive till I return, what is that to you? You just follow me.
Yeah.
Right? I may do something different with him than I'm going to do with you.
Yeah.
That's not really your concern in the end. You just follow me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I also find that people focus on the physical healing too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's so much, there's spiritual healing, there's soul healing, there's psychological healing, there's emotional, there's all these other healings that seem to get ignored.
Yeah.
And when people pray for your healing, people are so focused on praying for that physical healing. But in that moment when you're praying for that healing, and I've had this happen with me, actually, even at this church, I've had people pray for me for physical healing. And actually in that moment, I needed emotional healing. And God healed me emotionally in that moment,
Yeah. Where you experienced his touch.
Yeah.
But it didn't make a physical difference.
And people wanting to see the physical evidence. But I'm like, no, that's fine. It's normal, whatever. Yeah, it's got a little pain still on my legs and stuff. I'm like, but, I had the emotional healing.
Yeah.
And I probably didn't share that moment because I was probably still very vulnerable. But I had that emotional healing happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think it's how you look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. Praise God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Switching track a little bit. Tell us what you do for work. What's kind of been your adult kind of vocation?
So I went into psychology for my undergrad degree, thinking I'll be a psychologist.
Okay, and it's come up a few times.
It's
something
come
that
up
you're
a few
passionate
times,
about.
yeah.
That you've done some work on.
Yeah, and so I didn't realize that once I graduated with a bachelor's degree, I needed a master's
Okay.
to be a psychologist of some sort.
Okay.
And so then I didn't really want to go into master's at that time because I'd gone right from high school to university, and I was like, I need some work.
Yeah.
So I looked for some jobs.
Make some moolah.
Make some moolah, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Moolah in Nepali means radish, so it's very
is that
weird
right?
for me.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to make any radish. Radishes are terrible. So anyways.
Yeah.
So
I looked at a job that would be very closely linked, and I worked at a counseling center for 2 years, where I had the moment of not listening to God. It was a job where, it was my first job. Pay wasn't amazing, but first job out of university. I was able to pay off my car, felt the comfort of like having some earning, But the job ended up becoming very terrible. I would end up getting anxiety going to jobs sometimes because it's just bosses or other people just nitpicking little things. Yeah. It's very weird because it's counseling center, right?
Yeah.
Like you'd imagine.
You'd think that people would be very healthy emotionally and mentally, yeah.
But it just wasn't. And it's kind of sad because it has a very Christian name. And I don't want to say it right now because I don't want, But it has a very Christian name, but it's not a Christian counseling center.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's Googling right now.
I know, right? Yeah. Everybody's Googling that right now. And then I then ended up working as a behavioural interventionist. It's a couple hours. You can't really do that as a full-time. It's very hard to do that as a full-time job. And that's where I worked with kids on the autism spectrum and doing some behavioral implementations and adjustments, and as well as academic. So I did that alongside this admin work at this counseling center. But after about a year, I just felt this nudge from God to leave the job. But I didn't listen.
Okay.
And I think eventually the office that I was at, the owners decided to shut that office. And it was almost like God saying, I'm doing this because you're not listening to me.
Okay.
It really felt that. Because just before I was, because I was like, oh yeah, I think I'm going to leave. I had to talk this with my parents, I'm going to leave, I might not leave. But it felt comfortable, staying there as well because I'm getting the paycheck. But, and then I think it was because I was always on that, yes, I'm going to leave, and then backtracked.
Yeah.
And so I went and saw my sister in Thailand for the March spring break, and I had made my decision in my head, okay, I'm going to quit when I go back. I think God kind of knew I might backtrack because I'd made that a pattern. That as soon as I came back, the owners came and talked to me, and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to shut down this office. We can offer you a part-time job, not a full-time, a part-time job at this other locations.
Okay.
And I'm like, no. That was a very clear sign.
Yeah. And how did you sense God telling you to do this? And do you have any idea why he was wanting you out of that?
I think he just had something else planned for me.
Okay.
The other stuff, getting more experience as a behavioral interventionist.
It wasn't that there was something inherently wrong with what you were doing, or
I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yeah.
I was just admin. I was checking people in, coming into the office for counseling, taking their payments.
Yeah.
Leaving, kind of thing,
And so how did you discern God leading you or telling you you needed to get out of that?
I just felt that it wasn't, God had something more for me, and this wasn't it.
Yeah.
And I needed to go and find what that other thing was.
Okay.
And God kept saying, this is not it, this is not it, this is not your...
And again, just because I think some people go how do you hear God's voice, right? So what was that like for you? Was it just kind of a voice in your head? Was it...
the intuitive feeling of this is not it for you.
Yeah.
And then also talking to my mom about it and her confirming, this is not it for you. And then
so you discerned it with other people too. You're saying this is kind of what I'm getting... kind of a sense of.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about you?
talk about working with kids with special needs, and people are like, oh yeah, that's where you should be.
Okay.
Right? Because I've always felt that's where I wanted to do psychology, is work with kids with special needs, and it wasn't just with kids. That's, I thought I'd try the psychology because that's people with problems coming into counseling and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But it's just like, no, this isn't it. No, this isn't it. No, this isn't it. And I just get this feeling inside myself from my parents saying that's not, like, if you're feeling that, maybe you need to listen more to it.
Okay.
And then people telling me, oh yeah, you'd be good. And then working as a behavioural interventionist, the affirmation and the encouragement I was getting doing that job.
Yeah.
And then I tried to have more hours, and my boss not being flexible with those hours, me trying to, see if I could try to do both of them part-time, not working quite well either.
Yeah.
So all these different, and then I remember actually one day driving, and I'm not a person who has anxiety, right? But I remember driving to the office and just suddenly having this like weird like heart palpitations happening, and I'm like, what's happening to myself? Like, I'm like, I haven't had coffee. I haven't, I've had a good breakfast. Like, all these other things that wouldn't attribute this physical symptom. And then I'm like, and in my brain, I'm replaying all the little things that could get nitpicked when I get right into the office.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is not healthy. I shouldn't be anxious to get into work.
Okay.
And so I think that was really also another thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And so then what came next?
So I quit without any other job, which is very not highly recommended for people doing jobs.
Right.
My mom's really good friend from the UK came, and I spent time traveling with them around BC. And then I applied to this company that works with kids with special needs as a support worker, and I got in. And it wasn't a full-time position, but it was slightly better pay. And I worked in two different environments. One where they have, the parents, if you have a really high needs kids, so a lot of attention, you can't work because you need to take care of your kids, that you can voluntarily put them into care. And so this is what had happened with this one, or some of these kids.
Yeah.
And one of them was the kid that I ended up working with. And depending on how much of a need it is, this company actually rents like a whole garden unit or a basement unit, or they have a whole house and they split them between the two.
Okay.
So this kid had a whole garden suite with 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, kitchen, living room, and it would have a rotation of staff coming in.
Yeah.
And so I worked there for about a year and a bit. And then through that, I learned about what an EA is, because I've never knew there was such job as an EA, education assistant.
Yeah.
This is not something that was widely seen in Nepal and UK and in Singapore, the countries I lived in.
Yeah.
It's just not a thing, because kids with special needs are in their own schools.
Okay.
Not in
Okay.
the normal per se school, or the others, everybody's school. I don't know what the best word is to say there.
You've probably said something very politically incorrect.
Yeah.
But we know what you mean. Yeah.
So being in the support worker job, I learned that. And support worker job, I found it really tiring, because the one that I worked with in the home was on the weekends, and I tried to get it so I could come to church on Sundays, but sometimes I'd have to take the Sunday morning shift. So I couldn't be quite regular there too. And then during the week, I'd be like traveling to pick up different kids and take them to different things, and it was just too much traveling. And I just need a place where I can go from my home to my work, do my job, come out, but something in this field. And so then I saw the education assistant job, and the kid that I was actually working in the home with switched school districts and was coming into the North Vancouver school district. And I was working with him, and they heard that I'd applied to the North Vancouver school district, and so they kind of brought me in, because the kid will need support in school, and they're like, okay, you already know the kid, you can come in as the kid's EA, and then continue working.
Yeah.
So I did that for about 3 years. The kid was there for elementary in 2 years, and then I did another year. And then as I was working with some of these kids, I met up with speech pathologists and OTs and all these other fields. And from there, I'm like, oh, speech pathology.
Okay.
That really I was like, behavior is something I felt drained.
Yeah, sure.
And so then I was like, okay, speech pathology is probably where I could.
Yeah.
And then I started did a course called Orton Gillingham. It works with kids with learning disabilities to do basically when they're delayed in learning, helps them bring them right into their grade level.
Yeah.
So having done that, I'm like, yeah, okay, I want to work with kids with some form of learning academic delays and abilities. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So then went into linguistics studying for the last 2 years. So
Okay.
that's been my career path.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I mean, there's the common thread that runs through it all. You've done a bunch of different types of things. But we're coming alongside of kids who have various kinds of difficulties and wanting to serve them and equip them and so on, right? That's kind of been, I guess, if God's calling on you, the gift, the wiring that he's given you kind of has led in that direction.
Yeah, and I think it stems from when I was in Nepal, because we were involved with the kids in the orphanage.
Yeah.
And I used to help them with their homeworks, 'cause, the English wasn't great there for them,
Okay.
and I had learned my English,
Okay.
And so help them through that, and then
Yeah.
just playing with them and
Yeah.
building with them. And then I think from there, I also myself, being a person with disability, as you could call it, people putting restrictions on what I could and couldn't do. I'm like, no, there shouldn't be a restriction. And then, so then that really fostered me wanting to work with kids with different needs.
And that's a beautiful illustration of how God takes even our weaknesses and he works through them. He uses them. He redeems this stuff in our lives that to the outside world looks like, oh, poor you know? And God takes that and he shapes us and forms us and calls us to serve him in those ways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it actually, doing this job actually really helped me. I don't know if it's not question my faith, but sometimes it makes me question God. And I don't know if that's people will be like, what? But
scandalous.
I know,
No,
right?
yeah, no. I mean, I'm pretty sure we see that in the scriptures.
Yeah, I know, right?
Times, yeah.
So I think, and maybe, I don't know if I've always, when I've been in the faith, when I've, grown up in the churches and stuff, I've always heard, God has a purpose for everybody.
Right.
And I'm like, yeah, God has some kind of purpose for everybody. And then working with these kids who, cognitively aren't very there, emotionally, socially aren't, and it's like, God, what is this kid's purpose?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you created this kid.
Yeah.
You made this kid.
Yeah.
What is their purpose?
Yeah.
And actually, a couple times I've been with that kid I was working with in the school settings. In those moments, I would be asking God in my prayers silently,
Yeah.
help me see.
Yeah.
Never really got the answer.
No? Okay.
But doesn't mean that God doesn't have a purpose for that kid,
Yeah.
And maybe it would God just wanted me to have more compassion for kids in that area and that circumstance.
He's doing something in you. But I would also say our purpose that God wants to give us, wants to work in our lives, really only can come about through Christ.
Right?
Right? That it's only when we are walking with him in a relationship that we actually come into the fullness of what he's called us to, right? And that's always going to be, there's always going to be a limitation to the extent that we can access that apart from the Lord, right?
But then it makes me question, kids in that ability can't, we can't share and they can't accept, right? Because they don't have that ability to fully understand.
Yeah, right, okay.
Right? And so it's like, well, God's a fair God.
Yeah.
And it's not that he's going to say, oh, he didn't become, or that kid didn't become a Christian because, or doesn't believe in me.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to,
Yeah.
well, that kid didn't have the ability at this time.
Yeah. And I think in the
level,
end, we're held accountable for what we've been given, right? Whatever we've been able to receive, that's what we're accountable for.
And I think for me is that development of that faith.
Yeah.
While I was doing that job too.
Okay.
And then I think so after that kid graduated, I ended up working with other kids of different abilities too. And just, when I'm just on my own with them, praying over them quietly, I think that it just really enforced me to do that. The parents might not be Christians, they might not be able to say what they believe, but maybe I can just show God's love and just pray over them, and God will do the rest,
Yeah.
He's got the ability, I don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, one of the questions we always ask in these conversations is how faith has impacted work, how these two things have come together, how they integrate. And obviously you're talking about that your work has raised questions for you in your faith. It's also stretched you, and you are trying to, even in a setting where you're not really supposed to be probably sharing the gospel with the kids, but you're praying for them, you're wanting to love them, you're wanting to serve them. Are there other ways that you would say your faith and work come together as you're doing this alongside of kids?
Yeah, so I think this last few years I've been doing tutoring while I've been studying. And actually studying is really amazing. I just, some of the profs, I'm just like, oh, why can't you believe in God? You teach this, why can't you believe in God? You know, one of the things is I did cognitive psychology, and the prof aired out a lot of his hurt. And I'm like, oh, you need God. And then, because he's talking about all the disorders of the brain, you know, like not just like, you know, when you have a stroke or when you have all these things, what happens to your brain and what happens to your body. And how you know, there's such a complex movement of even just like reaching out to grab a water bottle, you know. It seems so simple to us, but the complexity of the actions that needs to go through your brain to process that movement is a lot, and you don't see it until you come with somebody who has a stroke and can't do that or something, you know. And I'm like, yeah, and who made that complexity, you know? Who created all that? It's like, you can't, how can you not see that? Right? You're studying the complexity of this brain. And
for you, it points clearly to the one who made this.
So clearly that there's a design, there's a purpose, you know, there was a beautiful, intricate pattern made out for it, you know. And then I took, because it's linguistics, we got to look at anatomy of that makes you speak. And one of the things is this tongue. And we're like, oh, tongue's a nice big muscle. It's more than one muscle. There's like 4 muscles in the tongue itself. There's like 8 different muscles that help move it. And I'm like, that's just for the tongue. Right? And God has created these like counter movements and all these things for these muscles to move. And again, how can that just, for me, it just directly points to a creator, you know? So it was just very fast. It was very amazing, my experience in studying that.
Your studies are actually pointing you even to a deeper faith and worship of who God is, what He's done.
And how He's made us, you know? And then I was at the same time tutoring, because I've got this Orton Gillingham tutoring stuff, and I was actually tutoring a few kids from our church here. And just being able to bring faith and also bring that kind of understanding of God's amazingness into those lessons, I was just like, oh, the freedom to be able to do that was just beautiful. Right? And be like, oh, I can really not just help the kids academically, but help them with their faith there too, you know? And just help them understand God in that sense too. Not just in Sunday school sense, but in outside of Sunday school. So I think that recently has been a new thing for me. Where there's a bit more freedom here to be a Christian in your work. What I mean, you just talked about like kids here at the church. What difference has it made for you to be part of the church, whether it's, you know, globally speaking or the Bridge Church in particular? You've kind of had this journey in all kinds of different ways. What has the church meant to you in the midst of that? So I'm going to go church from beginning to the church here has been very integral. That's the right word. For me, in my grounding my faith. I think, so as I said, my grandmother gave me those Bible devotional books, and that was in Nepal, and I had a really nice church in Nepal, the Nepali church. And when we went to the UK, we ended up finding a really good church. And any friends I made, because I had a big struggle in the UK there with my faith and knowing God. And a lot of hurt, because I had a lot of hurt from the fellow Christians, you know. I realized, I'm like, oh, fellow Christians are probably the ones that hurt us the most sometimes, you know.
So even as we're talking about what the church is meant to, the reality is that sometimes the church can be pretty painful.
Really painful. And I was at a Christian school, you know. And that's where I got the most hurt. But the friends I made were from the Christian church there too. Now I lost my train of where I was going with this.
Yeah, well, just that you had a good church in the UK.
I had a good church, but I had good friends. But it was development, like speaking into me. I think coming from a mission field where I saw, the power of the Holy Spirit moving, and myself on like 5-year-olds prophesying, like seeing acts acts happening.
Yeah.
And then coming to the Western world was diluted, to say the least, even in the UK, yes, I had a church that was great in worship and talked in the Bible, but it just still felt diluted. And so I think for me, going from in the UK and then to Singapore, the church itself, I didn't feel very spoken into, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And I had a lot of hurt from the school in the UK. And I think I learned how God can use to forgive. Like Corrie ten Boom's kind of, probably not to her extent, but also like that power that I can't forgive on my own.
Yeah, right.
I needed God to forgive. And that was very poignant to me in one. And again, it wasn't from the church, but it was from another Christian group that my sister was part of in Singapore. That I went for only one. And God just spoke to me like that. There's like, there was hurt there, but I was still there.
Yeah.
I didn't leave you.
Okay.
And so that was very reassuring. And that helped me forgive in the UK.
Yeah.
Before that, I had to decide what university I wanted to go to. I could come here, I could go to the States, I could go to UK, wherever, And I was like, no UK. It wasn't even a thought. And then eventually I got that healing, and I'm like, okay, I'll apply. That hurt is gone. I can accept people in the UK again, kind of thing. But I had to go through that healing to accept that. And then I came to Canada, and I think that actually was what guided me until I came to the Bridge. Because when I went to Kelowna for university, it's just like the whole town felt spiritually dead. The university, the churches I tried to go to, nobody greeted us. Nobody welcomed us. I went to a church, and, unfortunately I stand out a bit with my color skin and walking. I was also with another friend who was also a person of color going into a church that's very predominantly white.
Yeah.
We kind of stand out,
Okay.
But nobody greeted us.
Okay. Yeah.
Nobody said hello to us.
Yeah.
We went in, worshipped, and left. There was no connections. And we actually both tried a bunch of different churches. Eventually, I think, kept going to one church because we're like, okay, the message is still grounded in the Bible.
Yeah.
Even though there's nothing else. Everything else is bleh.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then...
It's kind of a commitment. We've got a church, something we got to have, even if it's really feeling pretty lacking.
Yeah, and we both were like, okay, this is not going to be our home church.
Yeah.
We're not going to settle in BC. in Kelowna.
Yeah.
This is just for our university life. And so I think that was the last 2 or 3 years of my university.
Yeah.
Definitely the last 2 years of my university. But before then, it was a struggle.
Yeah.
Especially with having roommates and friends who are not Christian. They're doing all these other things. You want to be part of it.
Yeah.
And then not having anything stability.
Yeah.
But I think having, all my other life journeys still kept me. I still held on. Even though I wasn't doing any of the other Christian stuff, I just still held on to God, and I think that really kept me.
Yeah.
And then coming to the Bridge, and then you helping start the young adults group, because there wasn't one before you joined as well, because I think you started in January that year.
Technically, April of 2017, yeah.
Yeah, and I graduated June 2017, and then I came officially, right?
Yeah.
So, and then you approached me about doing a young adults group, and I think there ended up being 4 or 5 of us, and then it kind of grew from there. And then we had that young adults retreat out in Lions Bay as well. And all of us were there, and we had a really moments of vulnerability and
Right.
growth there too, and
Yeah.
then just getting involved in the church. And then you ask, or I don't know if you asked me, but like later on, people are like, "Why are you not a member yet?" Right? And I've always because I've always gone to the churches my parents had gone to,
Yeah.
but I'm like, no, I need to make it my church.
Yeah.
This has to be my faith, my church. Somewhere like I'm not just going because I'm Ruth and Robert's daughter. I'm going because it's me.
Yeah.
And so when I did become a membership, I'd felt that by then.
Right. Yeah.
And so and then just now being involved and being part of it, and then also now working in Kaleo, that's really shown me. It's like when working with kids again,
Yeah.
it really shows me what I'm passionate about. But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You
Yeah.
find, so there's a lot of joy in serving with the gifts God has given you for like a pretty direct purpose here of making
Yeah.
Jesus known.
Yeah.
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 And just seeing the kids grow into themselves too,
Yeah.
right? Like just having their faith as their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think like serving feels to some people like a burden, right? Like
Yeah.
it's like, oh man, like I have to serve. I have to give up some of my time
Yeah.
for something that isn't necessarily like just for recreation or fun, or I'm not
Yeah.
making money. You don't make a lot of money volunteering. But like what you've just said, like there's a joy there. You discover, oh, this is actually like I'm passionate about this. I get to see kids growing in their faith in Jesus, and so that opportunity to serve actually is life giving.
Oh yeah,
it's joyful.
Oh, yeah. Like not just the kids growing in their faith, yes, but kids also using God's gifts.
Yeah.
Seeing that.
Yeah. Equipping them to also serve and
so we have
to make Him known. Yeah.
One of our, I guess she's a youth now. She's starting to teach Sunday school. Actually, we have 2 youths who are teaching Sunday school. But when they first came to the church, they were those people who were, I'm in the back.
Yeah.
I don't want to, and then they went through Kaleo and they went through other stuff. And now they're, teaching Sunday school. Like,
Yeah.
He's like, wait, what? Like,
Yeah.
and even some of our kiddos, like it's summer camp this summer, it's like seeing just a little developmental confidence in their kids.
Yeah.
Like, providing, like, serving is, it can be tiresome and stuff, but it's also, for me, it's like it should be a natural part of Christian faith. And I think it's like, I've seen that demonstrated by my parents.
Yeah, right.
Right?
Yeah, it was modeled to you by them. And it was just kind of always something that you were like, well, this is what you do.
This is, as a Christian, this is what you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is how it should be.
Yeah. And so for me, it's like, okay, but you serve where you find God's calling you.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not also maybe try out something that you wouldn't do. Because I've I started in the hospitality team at Capilano.
Yeah.
I did coffee as well. And then I did youth.
Yeah.
And then now I'm in children's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. It's because some people just go, well, this is the only I should be preaching, and I'm not going to do anything else.
Right? Yeah.
First of all, I'm not going to give you the mic, and
I don't want the mic.
you might need, you try some different things. You don't like certainly with Christian service, you never say, well, I'm above that.
Yeah.
That's too low for me, right? That pretty clearly doesn't work with following Jesus.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're wanting to find what has God wired you for? What are you? Where is like the classic? Where does your gifts and the world's need meet, right? Where's the church's need and your gifts kind of meet together? That's the sweet spot.
I think also you might even not know you have the gift until you try it. Though,
that's right.
Right? Like, I've had people say, "Oh, yeah, I'm not great with kids." I'm like, but you don't know what the kids need. Yeah. Maybe you just need to sit down and talk to one person. And they end up building a trust with you.
Yeah. That's right.
Like that's all it is.
Yeah. No, that's good.
Yeah. And so I don't know. Service seems very big to me.
Yes, it is. It is absolutely central to who we are as Christians. Yeah. Final question. Mm-hmm. What's the one thing that you have learned about following Jesus that you would want to communicate to others? In all your many years, dating back to the olden days of modems and cassette tapes and stuff, what's the one thing that you've learned in all those years of following Jesus that you'd want other people to know?
I think staying tethered.
Staying tethered.
Yeah. Whether, you're not feeling like it or not, whether, you're coming up with challenges or emotions, just hold on to that thread with Jesus, hold on to his.
So being tethered to Jesus.
Yeah. To Jesus, And I'm like, I think there are moments where you're like, oh, God seems so distant. I seem so far away from him. If you feel that way, don't turn away from that. Just be like, okay, acknowledge that feeling, but say, even though I feel this way, I know God's still looking at me.
Yeah.
Just having that, I think, gets you through a lot of things. I think, and it may not change for a while. You may not see what's happening for a while. Like, I think some of the stuff I'm still, right now I'm learning to be present with God because I don't know where he wants me in my job right now because I'm in this limbo right now,
Yeah.
And as we said, we've always had this thing of working with kids, but being open to maybe that's not where God wants me anymore, but just trusting and staying with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I learned when I was in the UK is that I always felt God had abandoned me, but he hasn't, and just keep that knowledge. That even if it's just a head knowledge, even if it doesn't feel in the heart or the emotion, just having that head knowledge that he hasn't, that's keeps you going.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks so much, Christina.
Thank you.
Thanks for being my guest here on Beyond Sunday.
Beyond Sunday.
Yeah.
That's great.
It's good to have you with us.